This is Hiring on All Cylinders, live from HR Tech. That's right, more Hiring on All Cylinders coming your way from HR Tech. We are positioned outside Starbucks. We have the most magnificent situation set up here. I'm very thrilled to be broadcasting even more, and I'm joined by a friend of Intello and an old friend of the show. She is the Vice President for Talent Acquisition, Engagement, and Retention Research, Robin Erickson from Bersin By Deloitte. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, Rob. It's great to be here.
You have you just got done doing the webinar with us. It was a huge success. It was about the talent acquisition maturity model.
Yes.
Which is kind of like a roadmap for when you look at the size of talent teams at different size organizations, what do you expect to be at that part for it to be a high functioning sort of organization?
Yes. And what are your processes? And we actually talked about the 4 different levels of maturity, with the level 1 being the lowest level of maturity, level 4 being the highest level of maturity, and how organizations can go from one level to the next.
Definitely. It was awesome webinar, tons of engagement, and it was also accredited by HCMI, was it?
Yes.
So people can go and kind of develop themselves there, develop their careers listening to your webinar, which I think is awesome.
No, it was awesome, and we had a ton of people who were asking questions. We actually ran out of time to answer all of them. So
that's how you know it's good, when people are raising
exactly
their hand,
when
right?
people are paying attention and asking questions.
Well, I'm going to raise my hand right now and ask you about your recent research, which is coming out or has come out, the true cost of voluntary turnover, the ROI of retention.
Yes.
So I'm curious, what's the true cost of voluntary turnover?
Well, the sad thing is that most organizations don't actually calculate the true cost of voluntary turnover.
Okay.
In fact, in a survey 4 years ago, we asked executives what would be the result of increased voluntary turnover in their organizations, and they said it would be higher profitability.
What?
Yes. And we sort of laughed, because if you look at the direct costs, the cost of replacing an employee is actually less than the interim reduction in labor costs.
Right.
So, for example, if you were to leave your organization tomorrow, it would take a while to find someone to replace you. Our Bersin By Deloitte average is 52 days.
Okay.
It would take 52 days to find someone to replace you, and during that time, we wouldn't have to pay your salary.
Right.
So we have a cost savings, and that cost savings is less than the direct cost to hire you.
Right.
However, during those 52 days, no one's doing your job. And so there's all of this lost productivity that directly impacts the bottom line. And so that's why I created this turnover calculator, to help organizations calculate the cost of that lost productivity.
So what kind of things does the calculator take into account?
Takes into account things like time to fill, cost per hire, also the average revenue per employee per year. And what we find is that it's millions of dollars can be saved by organizations. The average voluntary turnover level in most organizations is 13%. And so if you can even bring that voluntary turnover level down by 1 or 2%, you can save millions of dollars a year.
Cool. So the goal of the calculator is to kind of make the point to people like, hey, you're losing a ton of money on this. Time to start thinking more seriously about retention.
Yes, to think about retention. And I'm not proposing that organizations should look for 100% retention, but if someone's leaving your organization simply because they don't know of other opportunities within your organization that they might be a good fit for, or if they're leaving to get additional training, it's a huge loss to your organization to have them leave. So organizations really need to be thinking about ways to first attract candidates. It's one of the things you do here at Intello is how do you attract candidates, get them in the door, but then provide career paths for them that are completely transparent. And if people only want to do something for 2 or 3 years, then let them go and train for something else, but stay in your organization and stay longer, and you'll save your company a lot of money.
Absolutely. And so the ROI of retention part of that research, it sounds to me like this would be a great way for talent teams to kind of make the case of what they're doing to the board and be like, hey, here's voluntary turnover has gone down. This is how much money we've saved by like investing more in our employees and trying to take an interest in their career goals. And now that they're still here, right?
Exactly.
So like this is all the money we've saved, not having to spend the time replacing them.
Totally makes the business case for investing in employee engagement and retention initiatives, because you're going to save so much money by keeping employees there.
Yes, I love it. The other piece of research that you're working on or about to put out is the Talent Acquisition Research Roadmap by Bersin By Deloitte. What's that focus on?
So that's actually telling the world what I'm going to be studying for the rest of the year.
Ooh.
And so we're going to start publishing this now on a regular basis. And I have 4 different trends that I'm going to be covering this year. The first is around sourcing. And one of the things that I mentioned in the webinar that I did with you was that the number one predictor of talent acquisition performance is the relationship between recruiters and hiring managers.
Okay.
The number 2 predictor of talent acquisition performance is the development of candidate pools. So you're thinking both active and passive candidate pools. And we actually asked during the webinar what was the biggest pain point that the participants were seeing. And over 50% said that sourcing was their biggest challenge. And so I'm going to spend some time this next year, actually hopefully having a report come out early December or early January, focused on how organizations can optimize their sourcing strategy. I'll give you a sneak preview.
Yes, I love it.
Which is that we found that organizations that are at the higher level of maturity, that level 4 highest maturity level in their talent acquisition function, actually have they source differently.
Okay.
Their biggest sources of hire are things like their company website, because they have a strong employment brand and people are going to their website to find out about the jobs that are there.
Right.
They also have a higher percentage of employee referrals and a higher percentage of candidates from internal mobility. So internal candidates are able to find positions within the organization. So that's what's happening at the highest level of maturity. On the opposite side, at the lower level of maturity, you're finding a lot more of the post and pray sourcing techniques.
Yes.
Things like job boards and career fairs and third-party agencies.
The legacy sort of old-fashioned
Correct.
kind of
and
standard
there's
way.
nothing wrong with those. In fact, I've talked to a lot of organizations here at the show who are trying to help organizations optimize their search. And I think that there is definitely a place for that. And, definitely want to leverage those external recruiters. But it's very interesting when you're starting to look at where the majority of your candidates are coming from and what the most mature companies are doing compared to the least mature.
I love that it's kind of telling the story of these very mature organizations, and like, go figure, those ones have these employee referral programs in place, and they have these kind of very disparate methods of sourcing, not disparate, but diverse methods of sourcing. And so it's what you'd expect, but you're actually able to show like exactly this is what's happening.
And those are more likely to have strong employment brands and strong social media campaigns. And so they're doing a lot of things right.
I love it. So you mentioned there were 4 kind of key factors.
Yes.
We had
so
sourcing.
Sourcing is first.
Then candidate pools.
The second is untapped
okay.
labor pools. And there's been a lot written recently about the gig economy.
Sure.
And I think that that's really important. I think organizations need to learn how to better manage their contingent and freelance workforces. But there's over 5 million jobs in the U.S. that are unfilled right now.
Yep.
And so a lot of companies are saying we can't find people. Well, there are some labor pools out there that are untapped. And a few of the ones that I want to cover are the veterans. I think it's getting better now, but veterans don't have resumes. They don't get certifications. And they don't have corporate experience. And so they get kicked out of ATS systems.
Okay.
They get kicked out when the ATS is looking for specific certifications. So the organizations that are doing cool things with this they literally have what's called a military skills translator. And
Cool.
They translate the level and the skills. And so I want to talk about veterans. I also want to talk about the long-term unemployed. Those are the people who've been unemployed for more than 26 weeks. Along with the long-term unemployed go the unemployed,
Sure.
or the underemployed. And there's some research that's shown that they're more loyal. When you actually hire them, they're more loyal because they're very grateful to have a job and to have been given opportunity. And it took them a while to land there.
Yep.
A couple other labor pools that I'm going to look at are the disabled. Unfortunately, in this country, 85% of the disabled are unemployed. And we need to change that. We've got to do something about that.
Absolutely, yeah.
But it's going to take organizations to change to accommodate those. But most of the accommodations are under $500. So why not try to make some of those accommodations and put some of those folks to work? The other group that I want to talk about is as an untapped talent pool are adults returning to work. A few organizations in the last few months have actually started what they're calling returnships. Deloitte has done that, Goldman Sachs, Amazon, and they're basically having programs, I think some of them are for 12 weeks, where adults who are returning to work after a period of, long number of years
right.
out of the workforce. And they give them the opportunity to gain new skills, see how they work out, and in some cases, they actually then will let them apply for jobs.
Cool.
But at least they have some work experience on their resumes. So those are 4 of the untapped labor pools that I want to write about this year. The third area I'm going to write about this year is around candidate experience. And there's been a lot of talk here at the Expo about employee experience. Well, the employee experience starts with the candidate experience. And there's actually some academic research that says that an employee's job satisfaction is never higher than it is on the first day that they start.
Right.
So it only goes down from there. So you've got to make sure that it's really high and that your candidate experience is really compelling and effective. And the other thing that folks don't always remember about candidate experience is that your candidates today might be your customers tomorrow.
Definitely.
And if you're a B2C company, you really have to care, because if you annoy these candidates, they're not going to want to use your services.
Of course.
And some of these big, huge multinational companies with multi-platforms, multi-company, they need to be conscious of this. So there's a greater emphasis on it. There's increasing transparency in the marketplace. I think Glassdoor was actually prophetic when they called themselves Glassdoor, the idea that there's a doorway into the organization that you could see through.
Yep.
But I actually think now we have a glass wall.
Okay.
And it's bigger than just a glass door. And so organizations, you can find out anything you want to know. If I wanted to come work for you, Rob, I probably could find out from people who had worked with you in the past whether or not you were going to be a good boss.
Exactly.
All through social networking and the fact that the world has gotten so small.
Yes.
Because of all of those connections. So anyway, going to talk about candidate experience.
Yeah.
And then the last one I'm excited about, but a little nervous, I will admit. We're going to look at cognitive recruiting and whether or not there's any there when you think about artificial intelligence in recruiting. And I'm a science fiction fan, so I'm hoping that there will be something there. But I was actually talking to somebody the other day from Broadbean, and he said to me, Robin, at some point, you're going to tell your phone that you want to talk to me, and your phone is going to call my phone and figure out a time that we're both free, and then we'll just have to get on the phone and connect, and our phones will have done all of the arranging. And so there's a lot around machine to machine learning. M2M is being called, and I'm going to be learning a lot about that. So if folks want to get in on that conversation with me, I'd love to hear about how you're using M2M in recruiting and whether or not there's actually any true artificial intelligence happening.
Yes, that is the question, because AI has definitely been the theme of the show, and I've been kind of skeptical about whether there's actually technology there, whether it's just a bunch of hype. But it sounds like...
Or is it all machine learning?
Right.
Are people calling our machine learning and AI now being used synonymously?
Exactly,
Because there's definitely a lot of machine learning going on.
Okay.
But the question is it going past that?
Right. But I'm fascinated to see that bit of research. Robin, this has been amazing. You have all this research coming out, and it was awesome talking to you. I'm so glad you were here. Thanks for joining me.
It's my pleasure, and I'll look forward to working with you guys again.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Thanks.